From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from the channel's television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, 18 presidential candidates signed final peace accord in Abuja as the National Peace Committee enlists their commitment to a peaceful conduct of the 2023 presidential election. President Muhammadu Buhari directs security agencies to create a conducive environment for voters to enable them to exercise their civic responsibilities. Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, says about 500 billion naira of old notes are still outside the banking net, and the Commission is tracking the movement of the funds.
On business news tonight, Association of Corporate Affairs Managers of Banks denies allegation that lenders will shut down branches and digital channels throughout the election period.
And on sports news tonight, Flying Eagles get their Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations campaign back on track with a 1-0 win against host Egypt at the Cairo International Stadium.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, Supreme Court fixes March the 3rd for judgment in a suit filed by 16 state governments challenging the federal government's naira redesign policy.
Just 3 days to the presidential election, and all 18 candidates taking part in the election are committing to a peaceful conduct. The occasion was the signing of the final peace accord by the candidates committing to peaceful conduct during and after the polls. A peace pact obliges presidential candidates and the party leaders to rein in their supporters to desist from actions that will threaten the peaceful conduct of the presidential election. The candidates first signed a similar pact for an issue-based campaign in September last year, an agreement members of the National Peace Committee say was not fully complied with.
It's the second signing of the peace accord by presidential candidates for the February 25 election, and all 18 candidates are here to append their signatures to the document. The chairman of the National Peace Committee, retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar, sets the tone for the proceedings, decrying the lack of compliance with an earlier agreement for issue-based campaigns.
On 29 September 2022, the National Peace Committee organized the first signing of the National Peace Accord, committing the candidates to engage on issue-based campaigns. Having signed that, we monitored the compliance of the accord by these politicians. There was some lack of compliance by the major political parties. As a nation, we've got to put a stop to all these.
The signing of the peace accord has become a significant part of Nigeria's electoral preparations since its inception in 2015. 7 years after, the significance of this event remains unshaken and is revealed in the array of dignitaries here, including President Muhammadu Buhari and members of the diplomatic community.
I urge the candidates contesting these elections at all levels to respect the voice, the choice of voters, and accept the results of the elections as announced by INEC, the agency empowered by law to do so. Any aggrieved candidate should resort to the established judicial processes.
We remain fully committed to contributing to making Nigeria's democracy deeper, stronger, and accountable to its people. A democratic, peaceful, stable, and strong Nigeria is in the interest of all of us.
The message is simple but firm. All presidential candidates must do all it takes to make the election peaceful.
The Commission appreciates the work of the National Peace Committee, and we urge political parties and candidates to abide by the letter and spirit of the accord.
In every democracy, peace is a critical factor that breeds political, social, and economic progress. The peace and unity of this country is non-negotiable.
We have fond memories of the graciousness exhibited by both President Jonathan and General Muhammadu Buhari, as he then was, who heeded the appeal of the National Peace Committee and followed faithfully their commitment to accepting not only the results, but also conducting themselves in the course of their campaigns. We watched as this collaboration climaxed with the historic concession made by President Jonathan in 2015. And we expect that our contestants will show the same patriotism and integrity as the process unfolds.
The high point of the event is the signing of the peace accord, and all 18 presidential candidates file out with their party chair to sign the peace pact.
Chief Daniel, Zenith Labour Party.
It's barely 3 days to the presidential election, and as candidates sign the peace accord, many hope that they will rein in their supporters and make the exercise peaceful.
Meanwhile, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Right Honourable Baroness Scotland, is asking presidential candidates and their followers to prioritise national peace over self-interest in the forthcoming elections. The Commonwealth Secretary General was speaking at the signing of the 2023 Peace Accord, where she underscored the importance of Nigeria to the continent. According to her, over 1.3 billion Africans are looking up to Nigeria to show leadership, and the 2023 presidential election provides the opportunity for the country to do just that.
Leadership comes with a solemn responsibility, because the office of the president is a sacred trust. It is a promise each of you is making before the people you strive to serve, to put your country above yourself, to unify Nigeria for a new generation of Nigerians who can be proud of their land and thrive in it. It is a heavy burden, but this is your moment to enhance Nigeria's democracy, to show that we can live with love and respect for each other, even when we disagree. This great nation has given Africa, the Commonwealth, and the world so much. And the hour has come again to show who you are, what you care about, and what you strive for. The eyes of more than 210 million proud and hopeful Nigerians, the eyes of 1.3 billion Africans, and the 2.5 billion people in the Commonwealth, all of their eyes are on you. It is a hopeful gaze, a loving gaze, a confident gaze. I'm asking every person who participates in this election to be brave enough to take it, those who lead and those who follow.
Staying with the elections, President Muhammadu Buhari has instructed security agencies to create a conducive environment to maintain law and order to ensure Nigerians are able to exercise their franchise and vote leaders of their choice. Conveying the President's directive at the end of the National Security Council meeting, which he chaired, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Al-Khalibaba, stated that they have equally been directed to provide adequate protection for INEC officials to do their work. Also speaking at the end of the meeting, the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, disclosed that the National Security Council is satisfied with the level of INEC's preparedness, maintaining that the elections will hold on February 25th unfailingly. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Omezuke, has more.
For the first time this year, President Muhammadu Buhari convenes the National Security Council meeting as the nation counts hours before Saturday's general elections. The Attorney General of the Federation, hours later, conveys the position of the meeting on the upcoming elections, sharing similar conclusions as that of the Council of State 2 weeks ago.
The Federal Executive Council meeting had taken place, at which meeting Mr. President calls the national chairman of the INEC to brief the council relating to the preparations of INEC over the election. The National Security Council are happy with the preparations on the ground, and wholehearted arrangements are put in place in that direction. The resolution of the council is to the effect that the elections are holding and there is no going back about it.
The Inspector General of Police reels out the President's instructions.
The specific instruction is that we must ensure that Nigerians are allowed to come out and exercise their franchise or board the leaders of their choice. And for that, we must create conducive environment or atmosphere for Nigerians to exercise their right.
Responding to questions bordering on the open contestation of the President's latest policy by some state governors, the Inspector General of Police reviews actions taken.
We are investigating. Whoever does anything, he can be investigated. But for him to be prosecuted, there are people who have immunity. And I think that is some of the reasons. But that will not stop us from cautioning them and from warning them, from advising them, and we are doing so.
Thank you, sir.
The Inspector General goes on to explain that the combined presence of security agencies in places like Lagos and Abeokuta is simply to install security order following protests that erupted over the naira swap and naira scarcity, and not necessarily targeted at the general elections coming up on Saturday. From the presidential villa, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
Monitoring these elections are the African Union Observation Mission, which says it's on ground to support Nigeria through a peaceful, credible and transparent process and transition of power. Head of the AU mission and former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta made this known when he led the mission on a visit to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, in Abuja. Mr. Kenyatta said the eyes of the world and Africa are keenly focused on Nigeria.
It's another time for elections in Africa's most populated country, and former President of Kenya, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, is leading a 90-member team of the African Union Election Observer Group to Nigeria for Saturday's presidential election. While meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, in his office, Mr. Kenyatta raises a clarion call for all Nigerians.
We are here to work together with the Independent Electoral Commission. We are here to see how we can be of assistance. We are here to ensure that the processes are clear and above board. We are here to encourage our brothers and sisters in Nigeria to remember that elections are just part of a process, because democracy is built over years.
The mission, comprising 90 members drawn from various AU member states, will, among other tasks, engage different stakeholders and observe, as well as provide an accurate and impartial assessment of the electoral process in Africa's most populous country. The Foreign Affairs Minister assures the team that the federal government is committed to ensuring a peaceful and acceptable election.
We also wish to thank you enormously for that, and also for your role as an African leader and what you did during your mandate for Africa. So, Mr. President, really thank you very, very much indeed. And Africa owes you, and I think Kenya owes you a big debt of gratitude.
The mission is expected to meet stakeholders ahead of the exercise on Saturday, February 25, 2023, while urging them to work for a peaceful transition of power.
In part two, after the break, EFCC Chairman Abdulrasheed Bauer assures Nigerians monies linked to vote buying will be investigated and tracked. That's the moment. Please join us again. And U.S. President Joe Biden meets leaders of NATO's eastern border to mark the anniversary of the Ukraine war. The member representing Yagba Federal Constituency at the National Assembly, Honorable Leke Abejide, has charged Nigerians to vote for a presidential candidate with character, capacity and experience who can move the country to another level of development. He says this in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital, while inaugurating the Asiwaju Confluence campaign organization. He also distributed branded operational vehicles to the Director General of the campaign group, directors, coordinators at local government and state level. He assured the people the organization will mobilize over 200,000 votes to give victory to the APC's presidential candidate.
And if you come, you go straight into your tent. Supporters of the All Progressives Congress APC on one hand, and executive members of the African Democratic Congress ADC on the other converge on the premises of the newly built office complex for the commissioning and inauguration of campaign coordinators. This edifice is now the official secretariat of the Asiwaju Confluence Campaign Organization, ACO, in Lokoja, the state capital. The office complex is built and equipped by the member representing Yagba Federal Constituency in Kogi State, Honorable Leke Abejide. Mr. Abejide is the House of Representatives candidate of the African Democratic Congress ADC and is campaigning vigorously for the emergence of the presidential candidate of the APC, Senator Bola Tinubu.
Some people are surprised that I'm of another party, which is African Democratic Congress, and I'm supporting Asiwaju. Yes, of course, because when you see a leader that you believe can transform this nation.
The local, state and senatorial coordinators are then sworn into office in a ceremony presided over by the organization's lawyer.
So help me God. To ease the grassroots mobilization, we have targeted about 200,000 votes from the structure alone. We have designed it in such a way that in each polling unit, there's a certain number we are trying to get. In each polling unit, we have 10 canvassers. And we have asked these 10 canvassers to bring at least five people to themselves. We are not buying votes. but because of our image that is laudable enough for people to see, people are ready to follow wherever we direct them to go.
Flanked by some candidates from the north, the National Secretary of the ADC, Mr. Saeed Abdullahi, in his goodwill message, identifies with Honorable Abejide in declaring support for Senator Tinubu.
We're here to show solidarity for him, for the work he has done for the party, and then we cannot betray him.
Done with speeches, Honorable Abejide commissions the office complex and then shows the guests round.
And ahead of the forthcoming general elections, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdulrashid Bawa, says all money linked with the vote buying will be investigated and tracked by the commission. Mr. Bawa explains that the intelligence at the disposal of the agency shows that over 500 billion naira is still outside the banking coffers but stashed by some politicians with the aim of buying votes. The FCC boss was speaking on our political program, the 2023 verdict.
We have a lot of people that have stock of these new naira notes. They are willing to use them because INEC has more or less nearly perfected its scheme of doing things. The Beavers is going to do, a lot of wonders. So the option that most politicians are having now is to ensure that they buy votes from those Nigerians that are out there that come out, to vote. So they need to maximize the numbers that they have, out there. Even as of today, I think based on the numbers that we have, we still have over 500 billion of the old naira notes that are yet to be returned back to the central bank. And for the new naira notes, of course, the central bank have through the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting, have printed over 500 billion as well, which of course is out there in circulation. So as I said, we are working. We have our own way of getting, this intel, and God willing, we are going to use them, maximally in this exercise. This year's election is even different. As you know, we have new currencies in circulation now. It is easier to track these currencies by their numbers. Central Bank knows the serial numbers of these currencies as they distributed them across the country. So we even have another, added responsibility this time around, because all the funds that will eventually recover, out there in the field that are being used for the buying of votes, we can actually trace and see, whether these currency are genuinely currencies that are gotten from ATMs and across the counter, or whether somebody somewhere, used them in bulk and gave the politicians the money.
Let's head on to our studio in Abuja, where Maokwe Ogun Yusuf has more, I think, on the naira redesign policy. Hi, Maokwe.
Indeed, Amarachi will still have more. If you're one of those anxiously waiting for the Supreme Court's intervention in the face-off between some state governors and the federal government over the status of the old 500 and 1,000 naira notes, then you may have to wait a bit longer. This is because the Apex Court has fixed March the 3rd for judgment in the case. The Supreme Court adjourned the suit for judgment after taking arguments for and against the policy. Earlier in the proceedings, the 7-member panel of the court, led by Justice John Okoro, consolidated the separate suits filed by Abia and River States to challenge the federal government's policy.
The suit filed by some states challenging the federal government's naira redesign policy resumes at the Supreme Court, and as usual, the court is filled with majorly lawyers. The 7-man panel of justices led by Justice John Okoro first consolidates the various suits into one, as earlier stated at the last adjourned date. Abia State had filed an application for a rejoinder and was initially turned down for filing it late. However, the application was later added after the court resumed sitting. The plaintiffs are arguing that the implementation of the policy has caused untold hardship for Nigerians. They want the Supreme Court to set aside the preliminary objection of the Attorney General of the Federation, which is in opposition to the suit, for being in contempt of the Supreme Court order of February the 8th and the directive in President Muhammadu Buhari's speech delivered on February the 15th, as it is a disrespect to the authority of the court. The Attorney General of Lagos State, Mr. Moyosore Onigbanjo, also asked the courts to prohibit the Attorney General of the Federation and President Muhammadu Buhari from being granted an audience until they comply with the order made on February the 8th. He says the policy has impacted on Lagos State and is affecting the government from carrying out its constitutional functions. However, counsel to the federal government, Mr. Kano Agabi, says all the relief sought by the plaintiff are rooted in Section 20 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act, and therefore the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction to hear the suit as the action cannot commence with an originating summons. He adds that Nigerians had already begun rejecting the old notes way before the president's directive. He insists that the president is not in violation of the Supreme Court order.
This policy is one which impacts negatively on the functions of the Lagos State government in terms of our revenue, in terms of our finances. And the government is apprehensive that if this policy is not reversed urgently and speedily, we might witness another serious outbreak of violence in Lagos.
We are looking for solutions. Please, those who have this naira in their hands should submit them to the CBN or any banks designated for that purpose. Nobody will lose his money if you try to comply.
The judgment is set for March the 3rd, after the presidential election and before the state elections.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Association of Corporate Affairs Managers of Banks denies allegation that lenders will shut down branches and Chairman of Girigupa PLC and Chancellor Augustine University, Ilara Ekpe, Lagos State, Mr. Femi Otedola, has officially handed over the Lady Doja Faculty of Engineering he built for the university. The ceremony was attended by the Archbishop of the Metropolitan See of Lagos and proprietor of Augustine University, Archbishop Alfred Adewale Martins, and the donor's mother, Lady Doja Otedola, for whom the building is named. Our correspondent Ogechukwu Ose Oyelude reports.
On the first developing Augustine University, Ilara Ekpe, in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, sits the newly built three-story Lady Doja Otedola Faculty of Engineering, donated by philanthropist and Chancellor of the university, Mr. Femi Otedola. The building, whose foundation stone was laid on November the 27th, 2018, is the Otedola's family's contribution to the Augustine University for the development of education in the country. The Archbishop of the Metropolitan See of Lagos and proprietor, Augustine University, Archbishop Alfred Adewale Martins, the donor, Mr. Femi Otedola, amongst others, are here to officially commission the building, and the commissioning was done by Lady Doja Otedola.
The engineering faculty building, where we are now situated, is built on 3 floors, comprising 30 partitioned classrooms, 5 lecture rooms, 2 laboratories, and 1 library.
What we do today is simply a continuation of a family tradition that is very, very committed to growth in education and growth in spiritual lives of people.
Mr. Otedola is delighted to see this dream become reality.
It is with thanksgiving to God that I express my great delight for today's ceremony for the commissioning of the first block of the engineering complex of Augustine University. I thank God that my your dream of donating the first block of the Faculty of Engineering building has become a reality. I'm extremely delighted to be also turning the sword today for the commencement of Building No. 2 of the Engineering Faculty Complex.
Not resting on their oars, the next project begins immediately as they lay the foundation stone for the second block. Now, Block 1 of the Faculty of Engineering, Augustine University, Ilarekbe, fully completed and ready for use. Block 2 starts off immediately and will be completed in 2 years and will offer most of the disciplines under engineering, and that's according to the donor, Mr. Femi Tedola. Now, from Augustine University, Ilarekbe, in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, I am Ogechukwuosi Oyelude, reporting for Channels Television News.
And that's all from Abuja. It's back now to you, Amarachi.
Thank you, Malpe. We return to politics, and ahead of the 2023 general elections, the National Political Committee set up by the Nigeria Labour Congress has directed the workers to vote for the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, and other candidates on the LP tickets. The NLC National Secretary, National Political Commission, Chris Uyot, conveyed the message in a statement to workers on Tuesday. However, in his statement, he urged workers to come out en masse to perform their civic duties by voting in Saturday's elections and taking decisive steps towards safeguarding their votes. He urged all committee members and states to intensify work in mobilizing workers and Nigerian people at the local, ward and polling unit levels to vote for the LP presidential candidate and other candidates of the party. The committee has vowed to work with allies in civil society organizations and students to take necessary steps to safeguard the people's votes by ensuring the electoral process is transparent, free and fair. Well, Rivers State, more communities in Rivers State are benefiting from the provision of infrastructure in their areas as the governor, Nyesom Wike, continues to unveil new projects across the state. After flagging off 2 landmark road projects in Rivers West Senatorial District in the last 2 days, Governor Nyesom Wike led state government officials to Rivers Southeast Senatorial District to inaugurate a road that connects 3 local government areas.
It's another remarkable day in Rivers State, and the residents of Ogubolo, Tai, and Eleme local government areas are rolling out their drums to celebrate the inauguration of this road project by Governor Nyesom Wike. It's a 5.3-kilometer road that cuts across 4 communities of Ogu, Ekporo, Bogo, and Wakam, and the 3 local government areas, which had always had conflict over boundary and right-of-way.
This particular road will ensure greater unity between the Wakama people and the Bogo people that have been unfriendly for the past 10 years. But I will assure everybody here, currently, these communities are currently enjoying harmonious relationship.
The road has been so unique, His Excellency. I wish that everybody will emulate your style, because you don't only drop projects in places, you drop projects that try to put everybody together so that at the end of the day, peace will remain the permanent thing in Rivers State.
The Commissioner for Works gives all the details of the project.
This project was flagged off on the 9th of July in 2021, and 19 months later we are here for the commissioning of the project.
The unifier, the governor of Rivers State.
Governor Wike restates his commitment to delivering the best quality infrastructure to the people of Rivers State.
That also is promise made, promise fulfilled. I have said it severally that our people deserve the best. I don't see why some communities will not be linked up with road. I'm sure the people of Wakama, you are very, very happy. Are you people happy?
He then commissions the road.
This will commission in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Beyond uniting the people, this project is equally expected to impact the economy of the benefiting communities.
Business News is next. Yes, Anne Mawodo.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Marachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Association of Corporate Affairs Managers of Banks has denied trending social media messages alleging that deposit money banks will shut down their services from Thursday the 23rd of Monday to Monday the 27th of February due to the presidential and National Assembly elections scheduled for Saturday. In a statement released today, the umbrella body of corporate professionals in the banking sector said no financial services institution has received any directive from the central bank to close their physical banking halls, digital platforms, and online banking channels against their customers ahead of the upcoming polls. ACAMB also asked bank customers to disregard the report, as the lenders have put in place measures to ensure that depositors can, as usual, access money in their accounts during this period. A unit of the Africa Export and Import Bank, Afreximbank, that's the Fund for Export Development in Africa, FEDA, has obtained a 5% stake in electricity generating firm Geregu Power. In a statement sent to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the country's only listed power generation company says the deal, which is worth about 12.5 billion naira, was concluded following the purchase agreement made in December last year. Geregu Power, which also has 5% stake purchase by the world's biggest power company, the State-Grade Corporation of China, was listed by way of introduction on the NGX in October last year. It was acquired by billionaire businessman Mr. Femi Tedola. And we head to the local bourse now, where it made a quick rebound today, but mild comeback after Tuesday's decline. The price rebound in the shares of Geregu Power and some Tier 1 lenders lifted the market's key indicators today. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market reports. Well, the NGX recovered based on renewed buy interest on the banking stocks. The figures that dropped yesterday, they recovered today. So we saw Zenith Bank, GTCO, Accessco, they gained today and put the banking counter at 0.25% in the green. Oil and gas undecided, 0.00%, neither here nor there. But we have consumer goods slightly just at the tip, and that's because there's a 10 kobo gain on flour mill to close at 31 naira, and Dangote sugar gained 5 kobo to close at 17 naira 20 kobo, but that was not enough to touch the activity chart. The activity chart was deeply in the red. We saw total red there. Deals very, very low, value and volume. Now, the good news is that the all-share index still ended in the green. So we see in the green 0.33%, still at 54,000, and then 29.5 trillion naira for the market cap. We get closer to the election. Perhaps that's what's reflecting in the market. But we'll follow and report to you. That's the stock market report. John Mekwa is back to you.
Thank you, Annie. Well, let's find out how major markets around the world ended the midweek trading session today. That's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Next on the news at 10, U.S. President Joe Biden meets leaders of NATO's eastern border to mark the anniversary of the Ukraine war. That's in our international news and around the world in 5. Join us again. Welcome back. Simon Pusey has international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US President has met leaders of NATO's eastern border to mark the anniversary of the Ukraine war. Joe Biden met the group known as the Bucharest Nine in Warsaw a day after his landmark speech in Poland. He also met NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg. One of the main topics of discussion was supplying more aid to Ukraine.
I look forward to the discussion and the next steps we can take together and to keep our alliance strong and to further deter aggression. Because what literally is at stake is not just Ukraine, it's freedom. The idea that over 100,000 forces would invade another country after war, since World War II, nothing like that has happened. Things have changed radically. We have to make sure we change them back.
Earlier, China's top diplomat said his country's ties with Russia could not be influenced by other countries. Due to various sanctions imposed on Russia by Western countries, China has increasingly become an important trading partner for Russia. Speaking in a meeting with President Vladimir Putin, Wang Yi said he expected further agreements to come between the two countries. Vladimir Putin later issued a rallying cry to Russians during a stadium concert in central Moscow to get behind the country's armed forces fighting in Ukraine. He led the crowd in chants of Russia and said the whole country stood behind what the Kremlin calls a special military operation in Ukraine. A high school student has stabbed a teacher to death in a school in the French town of Saint-Jean-de-Luz. Police attended St. Thomas d'Aquin School with the local prosecutor, where a 16-year-old student was arrested. Local media say the teacher was in her 50s and died of cardiac arrest after the emergency services arrived at the school. Health officials say 10 Palestinians, including an elderly man and several militants, have been killed during an Israeli military raid in the occupied West Bank. Explosions and gunfire sounded as troops raided the heart of Nablus, triggering armed clashes with gunmen. It is understood heavy Israeli fire was directed at a house, killing 2 senior Palestinian militants inside. The Israeli military earlier confirmed its troops were operating in Nablus. The United Nations will need to mobilize a record $2.25 billion this year to address the mass displacement of people in East Democratic Republic of Congo following a major offensive by M23 rebels last year. The UN coordinator for the country, Bruno Le Marquis, said decades of militia violence in Congo worsened last year after the Tutsi-led M23 staged a major comeback in North Kivu province. It has led to more than 600,000 people being displaced. At least 4 people have died after a tropical cyclone battered Madagascar's east coast, with heavy rain and powerful winds tearing roofs off houses and triggering a storm surge. Cyclone Freddy made landfall on Tuesday, weeks after another tropical storm killed 33 people and left thousands without shelter. Schools have been shut and traffic has been suspended in 10 regions. Earlier, Freddy caused some damage in Mauritius, flooding beachside hotels. And wakeboarders have braved the icy temperatures of the Arctic Circle to complete an obstacle course made of ice and snow. Felix Georgi and Dominik Gers of Germany and Austrian Dominik Hörnler jumped over an igloo, rode over ice dominoes and did aerial tricks to complete the custom-built course. The riders had to break the ice in the pools of water as the temperatures had dropped to -18 degrees Celsius. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Now, 7-time under-20 African champions, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, this evening picked their first victory at the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. The Flying Eagles defeated host Egypt by a lone goal to boost their chances of advancing to the quarterfinal, having lost their opening game to Senegal. Solomon Agbalaka got the only goal of the match from a header in the 77th minute of the game. Earlier, defending champions Senegal advanced to the quarterfinal following a 3-0 win against Mozambique. Nigeria will play Mozambique on Saturday in their final Group A match, while the host Egypt will face Senegal. That's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Amarachi.
Thanks, Victor. And the main news again. 18 presidential candidates today signed the final peace accord in Abuja as the National Peace Committee enlists their commitment to a peaceful conduct of the 2023 presidential election. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.